I have this guy in my head, Anderson East. The radio station I work for we play a whole bunch of Anderson East. If you're unaware of Anderson East, just at the top of my mind because we're giving away tickets. By the way, if you're in the Long Island area, you can totally sign up for tickets at wehm.com. Just a little plug in there. He's playing the Music Hall of Williamsburg, but we've had him for a show before. He's so good. He's dating Miranda Lambert, so I don't know if that does anything for you, but you know, I'm not saying she's showing up or anything. I'm just saying that's how good he is. He snagged Miranda Lambert. That's not an easy thing to do. Really, really isn't. Hockey talk show on a Friday. Thanks for being here with us. I don't know if I've said this enough, but I just want to say thanks for all the continued support. We've just had a phenomenal run. We've just added Spotify, and the Spotify numbers are so interestingly high already for the amount of people that are consuming the podcast via Spotify. So it's just so awesome and nice to see that. So I just want to say again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for spreading the word on the hockey talk show, because we've really, really reached a good amount of audience. And by the way, this is just the beginning. Like, we have so much more to go. We have so much more growth to do, and we got a lot of things planned and in the works. And, you know, we're looking at this from a long-term standpoint. So we're just excited. You know, we're just through the roof, thrilled and excited. So thank you guys for just being there and being awesome. I really do appreciate it. Numbers on the screen, 631-438-1768. I say that totally realizing that people would rather comment in the comments section as opposed to pick up their phone and actually dial it and speak to a human being. I totally get it. You do not have to call. I'm just saying the option is there. If you want to have that interactive one-on-one with me, if you want to comment in the comment section, Facebook and YouTube, that is certainly okay and cool with us. Thanks for just being here. Hit that like button. Either way, let us know you're watching. And if you want to throw a comment so we know where you're from, and then we can, the reason why we do that, by the way, is so we know who's watching, and then we can sort of tailor the show towards you guys. So if you don't want to say where you're from, or you just want to say, hey, I'm a Devils fan or something like that, that's totally cool. You know, if I have the option of going with a Devils topic and a San Jose Sharks topic, I'll go for the Devils topic if I know somebody's Devils fans watching right now. So that's why I ask you to throw out where you're from and who you're a fan of up at the top. Or if you don't want to do any of that and you just want to say hey, just say hey in the comments. I certainly do appreciate that. Plenty to talk about on the show today. I love today's show title, The Beard Pull Heard Round the World. That is exactly what we have. If you missed the Nazem Kadri, Joe Thornton fight last night, I'm going to show some clips of that fight. And you might vomit. You just might vomit. I almost vomited. If you missed what happened, literally, they got into fisticuffs. And you know how Joe Thornton is rolling these days. He got the big old bushy beard. You know, the guy looks like a Wookiee. Is it a Wookiee? I'm trying to bring my Star Wars things in. Or do they call it something else? I don't know. He's got a huge Joe Thornton beard. Like, everybody makes fun of Brent Burns for looking like Chewbacca. That's the one I was looking for. But it really is Joe Thornton who has out Chewbacca'd. You know, he's out Chewbacca'd Brent Burns, I feel. He really has. Here, take a look at Jumbo Joe. Sporting this big old messy beard. Look at that beard. All his beardness. Nazem Kadri, literally, and I believe, but we'll examine the video, unintentionally during a fist fight in the game last night, Toronto and San Jose, ripped a huge chunk out of Joe Thornton's beard. Just pulled it right out. It A, looked painful, and then B, kind of looked disgusting. I'm not going to lie to you. Kind of made me just a little bit, just a little bit in there. It was uncomfortable for me. So we'll go over the beard pull heard around the world. And we had a trade in the National Hockey League today, and it involved the Montreal Canadiens and the Edmonton Oilers, both of whom should be trading a lot in the course of the next few weeks. This was a little bit of a appetizer, if you will, of a trade. So we'll get into that on the show. Also, further bad news for the New York Rangers with Chris Kreider and Jaromir Jagr. Is it over? I wanted to actually just do an entirely dedicated show just for that. But I had to go with the beard pull. That's just the bigger story so far. That really is just the bigger story so far. So we went with that. But we will discuss Jaromir Jagr because I do believe that the career might be coming to a close again within the next few weeks. So just look out for that, as we got plenty of topics on the Hockey Talk Show for today. 631-438-1768. And again, if you're on the podcast, remember to rate and review so that we can climb that little ladder, that little podcast ladder, and get a little bit higher up in the rankings. I certainly do appreciate that. Honestly, I can't say enough good things about you guys. You've been killer from the start. All right. Boy, where do we want to go first? Should we do Jagr first? I want to save the fight for a little bit, and the trade is kind of a big deal. Let's go Jagr first. Now, I thought I actually had the scoop on this because somebody that I'm close to in the hockey world, not I wouldn't say close to, but, you know, internet friends with. Sounds so creepy still to say internet friends. But somebody that I'm close to on the Weber nets, I did get this little hint of, oh, Jaromir Jagr's career actually might be over. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And I got all excited, and I went to all the hockey insiders, right? I went to Bob McKenzie and Darren Dreger, and nobody had anything. And I thought, hot dog, I'm going to break a story today on the Hockey Talk Show. And I thought maybe I should tweet it out. I said, nah, I'll just save it for the air. And then sure enough, within moments, TSN's Bob McKenzie broke the story. So I was like, oh, okay. And no exclusive for your old pal Ann on this one. But Bob McKenzie had this story. Essentially, what we're looking at here is when Jagr signed with Calgary, it was under the understanding of, hey, if this doesn't work, we can part ways and I can move on. It was a mutual sort of a thing, literally from Jagr and Calgary, where it's like, you don't have to worry about it. I think he signed for 1 year, $1 million. Where Jagr was like, you don't have to worry about paying me. I'll just be happy to walk away. And that's good for Calgary because, again, it was a little insurance. Like, if it doesn't work out, then they're not on the hook for $1 million. Not that $1 million is going to sink any team, but we know that Calgary does have some issues with that arena, and they're going through that whole thing. And anytime you can save, you know, a couple of $100,000, that's certainly not a bad thing. So it's not exactly something that you can put in a National Hockey League contract. It's more of a handshake scenario. And from what we understand from all the parties that were involved, that is exactly what happened. And since we're here, you know, we've kind of gotten to the point with Jaromir Jagr, you know, where it's like the injuries have been a constant for him this season. When he's not injured, he hasn't really been able to settle in and find a really good role in that Calgary lineup. And, you know, for the most part, like, it's kind of getting to the point where it's like, well, you know, what are we going to really do here? You know, we got to figure something out. You don't want to waste too much time from Calgary's standpoint. And then on the other hand, you know, you don't want to get to a scenario where you're embarrassing 68 in the twilight of his career. He's only made it into the lineup 22 times this season, and he only has 7 points to speak of, and only one of those is an actual goal. So for Jaromir Jagr, I don't think by any means we're getting to the point of embarrassment, but I think with the injuries and everything else, we can see where you're not in embarrassmentville, but you can see it from where you're standing right now. you can see embarrassment from where Jaromir Jagr is standing right now. So as we sit right now on this Friday, January 5th, I can honestly tell you that Jaromir Jagr's future, not only with the Calgary Flames, but in the National Hockey League, might be coming to a close. And again, this is information I found out earlier, got super excited that nobody else had the scoop and thought, I'll scoop this one tonight. And then Bob McKenzie came on Twitter and broke the story, as he often does. And he's got a lot of connections, and he is wonderful. And by the way, I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to out McKenzie. That's not what this show is about. This show is about things that happen and our interaction and us just being able to talk about it. If we could break a story and get a little pub over that, great. But, you know, I'm not sitting here working Twitter and the phones to try and break stories to you. I wish I could. If we get a chance to, I'm not going to turn it down. But that's not what we're out to do. And I'm under no delusion that the status of this show is up to the status of a Bob McKenzie or a Darren Dreger. I get it. But I'm just saying, like, I would rather, if I had my choice, to be Darren Dreger or to just have the interaction and talk to hockey fans, this is the goal, the interaction and the talking, because I'd much rather do that. It's just much more fun to me than breaking stories. Breaking stories, by the way, is a huge pain in the ass. It's a huge pain in the ass. Like, you have to be nice to people and butter up to them. Like, it's not easy being Bob McKenzie. It might be a little bit easier now, but, you know, McKenzie's been covering this game for 30 years, and he's only finally getting the credit that he deserves for being a quote-unquote insider. So take that for what you will. But he did have the story earlier, so let's get it up on the screen there so you can take a look at it. Lots of speculation on the future of Jaromir Jagr with Calgary. Hobbled by injury, unable to get a defined role. Rumors abound, but for now, anyway, my understanding is no declarations are imminent. There has been and will continue to be a dialogue between Jagr and Calgary. All this is set against the backdrop of what's believed, rumored to be, an arrangement or, quote, understanding between Calgary and Jagr when he signed, that if it wasn't working for one party or another, mutually agreed termination of contract would be invoked. You know, so essentially what I was just saying there is that, you know, if this, my apologies, sorry, I didn't bring that down. If they wasn't working out, that it would be they would mutually part ways. So it's kind of going to have to be that continued discussion between the two parties. And much like any other breakup, even the good ones are still all never that good. So we'll wait and see what happens with the Jaromir Jagr situation. Something that McKenzie didn't mention, or wait, did he mention that? In any case, Jagr says, no, he didn't. Something that he didn't mention, which maybe this is a little part of it that I could bring to it, is that some of this does actually surround, and it's not definite by any means, but some of the things that surround this little scenario is the Olympics, and that he might want to make that jump and go play in the Olympics, and that'll be his sort of little sayonara to hockey. It was never out of the realm of possibility for Jagr to go back into international competition or go back and play for his native country, or the KHL again, or Swiss, you know, wherever he was going to wind up. You know, that was never anything that he was, you know, it wasn't that the NHL was going to be the end. There was always a possibility for Jagr. Now, I believe the NHL is going to be the end. I think he'd want to go out in the NHL, but that's just me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he wouldn't go on and participate in the Olympics. Now, you can't be an NHL player and participate in the Olympics. So if they were to mutually agree to terminate this contract, that would absolutely have to happen before he went and went off to play for the in the Olympic Games, which is about a month away now. I think it's about a month away or so. So there is that possibility to consider as well, that Jagr might step out before the Olympics, and that's sort of where these rumblings came from and why they're coming and bubbling to the surface. I'm surprised that Bob didn't say that. Maybe he couldn't get that one confirmed, but that's what I heard. Is that he's seriously considering the Olympics, and not for nothing, but it's kind of a nice little way for him to go out. Eddie V, February 9th to the 25th are the Olympics. That's awesome. That's good to hear on that one. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I saw something coming in. February 9th to the 25th. All right, so he's got about a month or so, a little over a month to figure it out. But what I was saying was, and I think it's a valid point to make, that, hey, this is a good way to get out. The NHL is not participating in the Olympics, and you want to participate in the Olympics. You're not really cutting the mustard that much anymore. Maybe a smidge embarrassing to leave at this point, although I don't think Jágr has anything to be embarrassed about. I don't think there was anything wrong with this, last try with Calgary. Maybe this might be the move. Like, you can slip out nice and easy and say, look, I want to play for my country one last time, and, take that swan song and leave Calgary and go to Korea, participate, be with your country, and then, wrap it all up at the end of that tournament, because the Olympics are still going to get a ton of attention no matter what. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not going to be a lot here in North America. It doesn't matter that the NHL players aren't going. There's still going to be a lot of international intrigue around the Olympics. So, that's something to think about. It's going to be it'll be a nice way for, I keep doing this, I should really be doing this, for Jágr to, sort of take his last and final bow. And then he can come back to the NHL and sign a one-day contract with somebody and then officially retire, which I would guess that would be with Pittsburgh. I mean, I guess you could make an argument for the Rangers and or Washington. But if I had to guess, if he was going to pull one of these, I'll sign a one-day deal and retire bits, I would guess he would do that with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I don't know. Maybe he'll feel a tighter kinship to the Rangers. I don't really know. Perhaps, he was with Washington for quite a while too. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I think it would be good for Jágr to kind of just, put this one behind him. It's not really working. He's injured a ton. He's always expressed his desire to compete in the Olympics. So I think, hey, now's the time. Make the jump, make it happen, and go out with a lot of fanfare representing your country. That's a nice way to do it. 631-438-1768. Comment below. Let me know if you're watching and from where, or who your team is. We still want to talk about a couple of the other things that are going on in the National Hockey League tonight. Some really, really bad news for the New York Rangers, as we got the news that Chris Kreider is not only is he out indefinitely, but he is going to undergo some surgery and be very out. So however out he was, he's so much more out now. There's a lot more out. He needs a rib resection for blood clot in his right arm. I do not know what the hell that is. Out indefinitely with a blood clot in his right arm, will have surgery to have his rib resected. Rib resection involves a surgical removal of a segment of the first rib, which is the rib. By the way, first rib is such a good rib. I mean, it's so much better than the second. There's a reason why we call it the first rib. It's not just first. It literally ranks number one in all of our hearts. To have the first rib removed, has the first rib closest to the head under the collarbone, according to the University of Wisconsin Hospitals and Clinics. A surgical removal of a segment of the first rib. And that eases the blood clot in his arm? I don't know what's happening here. I really don't know what's happening. What's up, Chris? Oh my God, that's not good. That is not good. Yeah, blood clots freak me out. I don't care for blood clots. It just sounds like a scary thing. You break an arm, you break a leg. To me, that's so lovely. It is such a preferred injury. When you can't see it and it could possibly kill you, I don't care for that. Tampa Bay Lightning center Steven Stamkos had a similar surgery April 4th, 2016, to remove a rib in order to treat a blood clot near his right collarbone. Stamkos was, by the way, all that things I said about the first rib being great, I take it all back. Hate the first rib. Stamkos expected to miss 1 to 3 months. He returned May 26th, about 7 weeks later, to play against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Eastern Conference Final. Kreider left the New York's 1-0 win against the Washington Caps December 27th. In the first period, the clot was diagnosed that night. The 26-year-old had 22 points, 11 goals, 11 assists in 37 games this season. His sixth with the Rangers. He had a NHL career high of 28 goals and 53 points last season. I'm such a huge fan of Chris Kreider's. I mean, really, how could you not be? The speed, the poise. He was finally like really starting to put it together. 28-goal season last year. And not only that, but he showed up during the bigger games, which was always a knock on Chris Kreider. And I just think that came with maturity. You know, that just came with maturity in his game. You know, he's only 26. Keep in mind, he's only 26. And it's a lot to handle and process the National Hockey League and to get good and to get really good, you know. That's why older players, as they slow, i.e. Jaromir Jagr, are still able to compete with the younger players that are so fast because they can think and react the game so much faster, which is such a huge and important part about all that. But bad news for the Chris Kreider fans and for the New York Ranger fans. Further emphasizes what we've been saying on this show the last 2 nights, which is the Rangers need to not only make a move, but need to be one of the first teams in the trade pool when it comes down to grabbing some of the big names that are out there, i.e. Evander Kane, Max Pacioretty, Mike Hoffman, so on and so forth. I'm glad to see that you agree with me. Chris, Rangers need to make a big trade now. Who do you think the Rangers would be interested in going after? Those 3 guys right there have to be 1, 2, and 3 on your list. Let me put them in order for you. I would put... It's really tough because all 3 of them are really good. You can make an argument for who's better on the ice, but you also have to consider contract and term and everything else. Obviously, I think Pacioretty is the best natural scorer and leader on that team. I think that he would help them out the most. And he only has 1 year left on his deal. Hoffman has 2, and Kane is a free agent. I think Kane would be the easiest to get because the Sabres are going to want to just grab anything for him. And when I mean anything, it's going to cost at least a 2nd-round pick, if not a first, or a pick and a prospect. You know, I think Evander Kane is like the easy. I think he's easier. You know, Max Pacioretty, who clearly I can see Ranger fans want. He's going to be expensive. He's going to be expensive, especially because he has that 1 year left. Again, and I hate to say this, but look at the price tag that was set for a quality scorer that has a year of term left on his deal. I mean, Matt Duchene, literally, it was like a nine asset, probably even bigger than that 9 asset deal. You know, it was a massive deal that involved Matt Duchene. Max Pacioretty is, just as good stats-wise as Matt Duchene is. Potential-wise, everybody can make the argument that Duchene will eventually go on to be the better player, but we haven't really seen it all that much yet from Matt Duchene. Pacioretty's been doing it year in and year out on, let's be honest, mediocre Montreal Canadian teams that have overachieved because of his play and the play of Carey Price. So I see those 3 guys, number 1. Eddie brings up a good point of Tyler Bozak. I certainly think that Bozak being a centerman would be great for the Rangers. Maybe not points-wise as huge of a deal as a Pacioretty or a Hoffman, but definitely positionally-wise would be good. The problem is I don't think that the Leafs would part with Bozak without getting a big quality defenseman in return, and not a prospect, but somebody they can put in the lineup right away and help them on this playoff run that they're going to be on. And I don't think the Rangers really. I'd have to go back and look at the Rangers system. I don't really remember an abundance of defensemen, you know, for the Rangers. I mean, like a Brady Shea would be good, a younger guy that is going to probably develop into something really, really nice. But do the Rangers necessarily want to give up a Brady Shea, you know, to get a Tyler Bozak? That's not a deal that I would pull off. So to answer your question, Chris, I think the 3 guys that are atop the list by far are Hoffman, Evander Kane, and Max Pacioretty. And, you know, Pacioretty, there's no guarantee that he goes whatsoever. You know, same for Hoffman. Having that term in there just gives you so much more time to sit back and wait. Like, you literally, that's why I say Kane's easier to get, because you've got to move Kane right now if you're the Buffalo Sabres, because you're just going to lose him for nothing, you know. Whereas those other guys, Montreal doesn't care. They have till next deadline till they actually have to do something without, you know, losing him for nothing. So they can afford to be patient. There was a great read in Sportsnet on buyers and sellers at the deadline that I was going to leave towards the end, that if we needed to fill some time. And I'm just going through that to see what they're saying about the Rangers. And I don't even see, oh, these are selling. We had to go buying Columbus, Tampa, Leafs. We know they need a defenseman. Pittsburgh Penguins, St. Louis Blues. They don't even have the Rangers on here. How is that possible? I mean, how is that literally possible? That seems nuts to me. Let's see here. Let's see if they mention selling Max Pacioretty, blah, blah, blah. Vancouver expected to sell. Thomas Vanek is a possibility. He'd be easy to get. 28 points this season in 40 games. Not too bad. Again, old, so it doesn't really help you long term, but can help you if you need to get in to the playoffs, especially this year. Derek Brassard's name has come up a bunch in Ottawa. It would be interesting to see if they could get him back. But that would be sort of weird. You trade Brassard for Zibanejad, and then you go back and you get Brassard back. That would be a little bit of strange. Again, the Rangers have too many of the same type of player, and to be honest with you, Zibanejad is just a younger, better, faster, more effective on the power play Derek Brassard. I'm sorry, but he is. He's the better out of the two players. They mentioned Evander Kane. Here's interesting about Arizona. They mention, let me see, did they mention, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Derek Stepan would be interesting to get him back. Anthony Duclair asked for a trade the other day, too. You know, I think I just see Tyler Bozak wearing a Red Wings uniform after the deadline. Bozak for Green, straight up, might be a not bad move. I think the Leafs would be giving up more in that case, but they desperately need that piece. You know, straight up would be a good way to go, I think. I mean, what are you going to argue about? You know, you want a 5th or 4th round pick thrown in there? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. That is by far never going to stop a trade. The Leafs would want too much for him. Toronto always inflates the value of their players. True. Toronto, no way Toronto moves Marner, in my humble opinion. Josh, I totally agree with that. I just don't see them moving Marner. You don't have to yet, you know. I mean, if you're going to move Marner, the only way you move Mitch Marner is if you're talking about Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Like, that's the only way. Like, if you're going to make that move, you better be getting a top 2 defenseman, you know, because you don't want to pass up on Mitch Marner. Now, you know, it may get to a point where they have an abundance with Brown and, you know, all these guys that are really performing well outside of their big 3, that you could move one of the big 3 and then pull back something in return. That I have no problem with, but usually that stuff doesn't really happen until you're forced to because of contract. I mean, look how long, case in point, look how long Pittsburgh juggled Matt Murray and, you know, Theo Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury. They juggled them until they absolutely had to get rid of them. You know, not until and in this particular case, it wasn't necessarily free agency that forced their hand. Rather, it was the expansion draft. But still, like, teams, if they can fit them under the salary cap and all this and that, they're not going to move a guy like that unless they're going to get a huge defenseman in return. Green is too expensive. They need a top D man. Toronto is right on the cusp of being a cup contender. Why would they get rid of a key young player like him? Exactly. Good point, Josh. Marner would be dynamite in Calgary. Mitch Marner would be dynamite anywhere, to be honest with you. He would be really good in a lot of different places. But again, the only way I could see the Leafs moving Mitch Marner is if you have Oliver Ekman-Larsson coming back the other way. And by the way, not only an Oliver Ekman-Larsson coming back the other way, but an Oliver Ekman-Larsson with an agreement with it. I forget how many years he has left on his deal. Maybe one other season after this one. A little agreement like, yeah, where I'm going to sign long term, or at least have that conversation of how do you feel about it? Because again, you can't tamper before a certain point by asking somebody to sign. So you'd be like, hey, how do you feel about Toronto? Do you see yourself? Would you think you're here long? Do you like the city like in a long-term situation? Could you see yourself here for 10 years? You know, that kind of thing. So, Marner, Monahan, and Johnny Hockey, a scary combination. That'd be a line. I'd fly to Calgary just to watch that in person. That's how good that line would be. By the way, let's give credit to, speaking of good lines, I went back to listen to the George McPhee interview on Hockey Central the other day, and I forget his name, brought up the Carlson, Riley, and Marchessault line. That's a good line. That is a good line. I don't get to watch a lot of Vegas games in person, but I watch all the highlights of the Vegas games. That's a good damn line. That's part of the big reason why Vegas has had a lot of success. That and the strip clubs and never-ending amount of alcohol, and the fact that they invite all the teams. I think Vegas at this point is literally paying for visiting teams' hotels, with the caveat of we'll pick up the tab on your hotel bill if you stay an extra night. I'll tell you what, we just want you to experience the city. Come stay for an extra night on us. We'll pay for the whole thing. Don't worry about it. And I think it's a thing that is definitely working for the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm not going to get into the trade deadline too much for the rest of the thing. We have so much time to talk about it. But let's talk about the trade that did occur today, because there was an interesting trade from the standpoint of, the price tag, to be honest with you. You know, it was really, for me, you know, when a goaltender goes for a 4th round pick, it's not all that thrilling and exciting. But when, you know, Al Montoya goes for a 4th round pick, that kind of raises my eyebrow a little bit. You know, I was talking yesterday about Larry Brooks being nuts, talking about, you know, if the Rangers are, actually, he didn't even say if the Rangers were out of it. I can't even give him that credit. I added that. But that if the Rangers were out of it and Rick Nash were to go, would he bring back a 1st round draft pick? And by the way, I still say no. But just to give you an idea of where prices are in the trade market, and again, it's a bit early, Al Montoya just went for a 4th round draft pick. That is not like ridiculously high, but it's 1 round higher than what he should be going for. Right? I mean, let's be honest with each other. Al Montoya is as capable of a backup as you can get. And I actually think one of the best career backups. I know that might be an embarrassing thing for people to say, but take pride in what you're good at. Like, he's a good National Hockey League goaltender. It's just in a backup role. Like, so what if he's not, like, I'm sure he would have preferred to have had Carey Price's career, but, you know, he didn't. And he's bounced around a whole ton, and he's been signed and he's been traded and all this and that. And but still, when you look at his career stats, he is by far never embarrassed himself and always been pretty good. You know, he's always maintained around a 3 goals against average, most years lower than that. Last year, he was at 2.67, 2.18 in 25 games with Florida before that, 3 even with Florida in 14 and 15, 2.3 with Winnipeg in 28 games. Like, I mean, you know, all throughout his career, he's been a great backup goaltender and giving you a chance to win. And Edmonton finally, you know, realizing that they needed to do something here, ponied up and went out and paid a 4th round draft pick for him. Now, you know, look, it's like I said, I'm not like, this is crazy. He should have never. No, I mean, I think it's fine. I'm not shocked, but I am a little surprised that he went for like a 4th. Like, I could have, like, I think in years past, you could have scooped him up for a 5th, especially this early in the season. But perhaps that was part of the problem, that, you know, the market for a goaltender is just kind of settling in and they're figuring out where everything is going. And, you know, you got to set the prices literally every year. And he goes for a 4th round pick. I just think it's a smidge high. And, you know, when you start to talk about an Evander Kane, like if you're picking up Al Montoya for a 4th, the price tag on Evander Kane may not drop down past a 1st. Like, I think all things equal, Evander Kane should go for a prospect and a 2nd round pick right now. I don't think you should have to give up a 1st round pick for Evander Kane, especially since he's just a rental, because that really hasn't been the bit over the last couple of years. You know, we haven't had those years where you're giving up 1st rounders for, you know, a rental that's going to be gone soon. But you know, this year they may have to if Montoya is going for a fourth, you know. Let's see here. The condition of the pick states that the Canadians will receive a fourth-round pick from the Oilers if Montoya plays in at least 7 regular season contests this season. If he plays in less, the Canadians will receive a 5th-round pick. All right, there you go. So there is a condition on the pick. So a 5th seems more likely, but, you know, I think he's definitely going to get into 7 games. That doesn't seem like a tough one all that much. I'm trying to see if Montoya was traded in years past and what he went for. I know he always signs with a new team, but I feel like he was definitely traded in the past. Anyway, I bring it up because A, it's a trade, and B, you know, 4th round, you know, again, we're setting prices this early on in the season here. And of course, C, if you really want to, if I could take my hockey talk show hat off and put on my I'm just a Islanders fanboy hat on, why the hell didn't the Islanders get this guy? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't, you know, Garth Snow couldn't pony up a 4th for Al Montoya. He's already played here. The Islanders desperately need help. I mean, their goaltending has been abysmal. Do you know the Islanders have 4 players in top scoring positions, with Josh Bailey, John Tavares, Anders Lee, and Matthew Barzal leading in rookie goal scoring, and they're out of a playoff spot right now? If the Islanders don't make it, it would be the most abysmal season ever. It really would. I mean, to have leading scorers and one of the great lines in the league, and I'm just as shocked as you are that I'm saying this, that Josh Bailey is involved in that statement, and not make the playoffs is downright horrific. So, first trade today of what I'm going to call, well, it is the first trade of 2018. There was a minor deal before, I think December 30th was the last trade. So first trade of 2018 has Al Montoya going for a 4th round draft pick. There you go. We'll see how that affects the rest of the prices moving forward in what I think is going to be quite the active deadline for this season. Now I want to, let's see here. All right, I want to bring you the beard pull heard around the world. Poor Joe Thornton. One of the sweetheart guys in the league, by the way. I know he can be a little hard to deal with. So here's how it started, and we thank Jeff Valetti for the GIF here that I'm going to show you guys. This is how it all kind of started between the two guys. There was a little bit of a tussle off the face-off, and then they decided to go, essentially. And let's bring that up for you right here. All right, here's the face-off. And you see a little stick whacking. Kadri's up a little high. Thornton's up a little high, tripping each other up. And then off a face-off later on, they decide, all right, we're going to go. So that's how this all started. And then here's where this all finished. It is rather disgusting. They're fighting. Now, I want you to look in this. Look, oh, look at Kadri. Look. Oh, no. Oh, dear Lord. I can make this bigger a little bit. So they're fighting and they're tussling. And at some point, Kadri realizes, I have Joe Thornton's hair in my hand. Kadri went at one point to grab his, you know, they were fighting. So they was trying to, you know, they were trying to grab jerseys. You know, Kadri's trying to position himself. By the way, Thornton, I don't even know what size these guys are, but I know Thornton is much bigger than Kadri. You know, and he's struggling and they're tussling and, you know, again, like, you know, Kadri's at the point, like Kadri's, you know, he's like this and he's just trying to grasp and not get hit. And he pulls what he thinks is the jersey, but in fact, it's Joe Thornton's beard. And then just at one point, you know, he realizes I got Thornton's beard and he lets it go. And oh my God, you can actually see him toss it aside as it hits the ice. That makes me want to vomit. You know when you get a haircut and they sweep up the hair afterwards? Oh, that makes me... When the hair forms its own little hair nest. It makes me want to vomit. Eddie, they should send Joe Thornton's beard to Al Montoya to make him a good quality toupee. Ouch. Ouch. Actually, I think if you paired up Joe Thornton's beard with a first rounder, you could probably bring in a pretty good prospect. Get San Jose that help that they need going down the stretch here. Look how disgusting that is. Look at when he hits the look I think when he realizes, oh my God, what is this? He just he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So disgusting. So disgusting. Reminds me of when the guys pull the predator hair of some guy in the NFL to tackle them. Yeah, I've seen that too. The guys in the NFL that got the dreadlocks hanging out the back of their helmet, and the guy goes to tackle him, and next thing you know, he's got a dreadlock in his hands. That's got to be so painful. That has got to be so... Dreadlocks are painful to begin with. I used to know a guy who had dreadlocks all the time. He hated them. He always went with them because it was just easier to deal with than dealing with his hair on a daily basis. But I didn't know this. I learned this a while. Actually, when I was in college, I was tight with this guy. He used to tap his hair all the time because you can't scratch dreadlocks because they pull out, they come out. So he would tap his head, and that would sort of satisfy the urge to scratch it. And all he did all day long, whenever he got his dew freshly did up, he would just be walking around just tapping his head all day long. I'm like, there's got to be a better way to live. I'm like, why don't you just shave it all down? He wanted the dreads, man. He was going with the dreads all the way. Yeah, that's disgusting. That is definitely the beard pull heard around the world. I mean, just gross. There's another video. I don't know if I want to show it to you. Maybe I'll put it in the description below. I'll put it in the description below. There's another video where, so after it happens, obviously, you can't. All right, you know what? No, I'll just play. Let me just play it for you, because it came from the San Jose Sharks Twitter. So let me bring this up for you guys. After it happens, you can't just leave it on the ice. It's it's kind of a hazard. So they literally brought it to the San Jose bench, maybe to surgically reattach it. I don't know. And I don't know who the backup netminder was last night for San Jose, but they literally put it in his catching glove. It's so disgusting. So disgusting. Let me remove the lower third so you guys can get a good look at it. This might be a little loud too. All right, here you go. It's sitting in his catching glove right now. Wait, look. See, there it is. There it is. Look, they're Instagramming. Look at it. Animals. Disgusting. So disgusting. Look, he puts it in his glove. Look at Ryan looking at it. What the hell? That's so gross. That is so gross. Oh, that was really disgusting. All right, I'm going to go vomit. A lot of hockey action in the league tonight. My Isles are back in it. Well, they lose 4 in a row now. Totally disgusted by the Islanders. The Islanders is more disgusting than loose Joe Thornton beard hair on the ice. Pittsburgh and the Islanders. That's honestly my... that's going to be my pick for a game to watch. If you got the NHL package, watch that one. I think it's going to be a good one. Pittsburgh out of the playoffs and need to grab a lot of ground, and they haven't been playing all that well. And the Islanders not really playing all that well. Could be the momentum that one of these teams need to get themselves back into that wild card position. So I think this is going to be a nasty drag down fight game. There's no love lost between these teams. Remember the playoff series a couple of years ago got really nasty. And every time they get together, I feel like this is Pittsburgh's problem everywhere, though, because everybody hates Sid. Every time they get together, there's a lot of nasty exchanges that happen within the game. So I'm picking that game to be the game for tonight. The other game that I think is going to be super interesting, and it is the NBC national game. If you don't have the package there, Vegas and Chicago. Chicago pulled off a big win against the Rangers the other night, 5-2. With Jeff, was it Jeff Glass? What's his name? Jeff. I think it's Jeff Glass, the 32-year-old netminder who is a rookie in the National Hockey League. He backstopped them to a big win at Madison Square Garden the other night. Vegas is hot as hell. This one's in Chicago, so I think that's going to be a good game. Vegas and Chicago should be really good. If I had to pick, I'm going to go with Chicago on this one. Vegas just had their winning streak stopped, but they still won like 8 of 9 or 9 of 10 or something crazy like that. They're still a great team. I don't know. I just feel like they got a hot goaltender right now, Chicago. Again, much like Pittsburgh, in a similar situation where they're clawing, and they better figure it out if they want to make a run for the playoffs this year. So I'm going to take Chicago against my beloved Vegas Golden Knights, who I seem to just praise endlessly. Buffalo and Winnipeg should be a snoozer. Give me Winnipeg in that game. Detroit and Florida. Give me the home team, Detroit. And the lighter, Joe Thornton, and the San Jose Sharks are in Ottawa tonight. That'll be a great game, but give me San Jose for sure. And hopefully Joe had his beard surgically put back together. Eddie says Isles 5, Pittsburgh 3. You're all right in my book. Vegas 6, Chicago 2. We are of opposing minds on this one. By the way, Austin Matthews, I must mention this too, has been on fire since returning from his injury. He has been a whole bunch of fun to watch. I keep wanting to mention this because I've been, again, haven't really seen a ton of, playoff games, weeknight games for the Maple Leafs. But in all the highlights, Austin Matthews has been ridiculous. Ridiculous. He just looks great. Playing really good on both ends, too. That's how you know a young player like him is like in the right mindset, because they're good on both sides of the puck recently. And you can see he's only a -2 in his last 5 games, and he's got 4 goals and actually no assists in his last 5. So just 4 points for him in his last 5. But he has just been, I feel like, just knocking down points recently. 18 goals in 32 games, so he's missed a bunch with the injury. But that Austin Matthews, he is so impressive, man. He is so impressive. And again, I feel like a lot of people just love talking about Connor McDavid and, Patrick Laine and all these guys. And I feel like and I can't believe we're saying this because he's in the mecca of the Toronto media, but I feel like Austin just doesn't get all that much credit sometimes. Even though he does get credit, he doesn't get that Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid fanfare that I definitely think he deserves. I think people will be singing a different tune once Austin and the Leafs have some success in the playoffs, which I think they'll have this season. But you got to go out there and get that Mike Green first. That's going to be important. All right, that's going to be it for tonight. Enjoy the hockey action. I keep saying we're going to do a pop-up show on the weekend. I'm hoping that one of these weekends that will actually happen. I've been like stockpiling a bunch of like fun topics that are not like a daily basis topic that I'd like to like delve into, best hockey movie and all that kind of stuff, hockey retirement stories and things like that. So maybe one of these days we'll sneak that stuff in there. I don't know. We'll have to see. Again, throw the thumbs up on this show if you enjoyed it. Hit that like button, share it on your Facebook page or your Twitter or whatever. If you can, that'll certainly be appreciated. Eddie, always enjoy the comments. Everybody who jumped in today, Liz, of course, is always brilliant. Chris and Josh and everybody else, thanks for being a part of the program. And I will see you guys next week if I don't see you any sooner.